Jessica. Hey guys. Ashley. Hello.
Well, if you've been married, you can't have
Sing it,
no
Loretta.
or you're ready to. No matter what you do, they're going to talk about it.
Okay, I just couldn't cut her off. So that was the one-of-kind, the magnificent Miss Loretta Lynn. She is our featured Five-State Female Songwriter of the Week. I'll get to that later. So happy. There are so many things that I want to wish you that I had to write it on a Post-it here. I'm also carrying a bit of knowledge, and we're going to talk about that in a second too. So happy Pride Month, of course. Happy first day of summer, which is tomorrow. Happy New York City people. Possibly phase 2 beginning on Monday if our mayor and governor can, make that work out. They're having a little trouble agreeing on things. Happy Father's Day weekend to all fathers. And of course, a special shout out to my own father, Mr. Chuck Davis, who will most likely be watching this in a couple days on YouTube. You Oklahoma people, if you see him and he hasn't watched it, please give him a hard time. So obviously also happy Juneteenth. And to commemorate Juneteenth, besides wearing my favorite summer party dress from last year, but that's okay, for all of these wonderful things that we're celebrating, I would like to share a story with you. And it's a story that's sort of a confession. I want to tell you something that I'm still so embarrassed about, and shocked. And anyway, I'm going to humble myself by telling you a brief story. So, a few months ago, before all the quarantine things happened, I was out with my brother and some of his friends from his work, which are, cool musician people. We went to see a show. We're having some drinks. I'm sure we were smoking a couple cigarettes. And I am telling them how great Watchmen, the series, the HBO recent Watchmen series is. It's so good. And I'm convincing them to watch it. And I'm telling them about the sort of scenario that begins the whole thing, which I describe as, get ready for this, an alternate reality that takes place in Tulsa, where it's inhabited by all these wealthy, very successful black people, and what happens is there's a terrible massacre, and it's awful. So my brother's friend Alex, who may eventually watch this, hey Alex, says, "You mean the Tulsa Massacre?" And I'm like, well, it is a Tulsa Massacre, but it's like an alternate reality where like there was a massacre. And he's like, right, you mean the Tulsa Massacre. So he's someone who I respect and admire. At that point, I just stopped talking about it, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Mumble. Let me just take another drink and have a cigarette and think about this. So fast forward to a couple days later when I look it up, and I am horrified to find out, hi guys, I am absolutely horrified to realize that not only did it happen, but it was as horrifying as it was portrayed on TV. And you may say, why are you personally so embarrassed? Well, I'm personally so embarrassed because I'm from Oklahoma, and I consider myself a very educated person. And when I was going to public school in Norman, Oklahoma, we have such a great public school that when I was in high school, it was in some publication as like one of the top 10 schools in the entire country. And not only that, I even had to pull out my book of Oklahoma history that in 4th grade, and someone in my family who cares very much was cleaning something out and found this for me. And it is just chock full of wisdom and knowledge. Here's my sand painting, my buffalo skin art, right? Every flag that flew over Oklahoma, information about the very first newspaper, which if you didn't know was a Cherokee newspaper. The actual newspaper article from when Oklahoma became a state, which you may not know, was actually very recent. Not until 1907, right? My favorite part, this is a little bit of a side note, but I have to tell you that there's a little section here that says, saloons are shut tight. The lid was clamped on in New State at midnight, and it talks about how the stocks of all local saloonists were cleaned out in anticipation of statehood, because statehood was going to mean prohibition. So that's an interesting side note. But anyway, so all these things, I'm like, I spent an entire year learning all this stuff about Oklahoma and the Trail of Tears. How do I not know about this? What is wrong with me? So, about February, a couple articles were published. CNN published one. There were a couple that talked about the fact that Oklahoma had decided that now they're going to start teaching the Tulsa Massacre to students. And I felt marginally better because I was like, okay, I'm not completely insane. I really never learned about it, but that does not excuse it. And in fact, today I'm like pouring through this book. I'm like, there's got to be something about African Americans in Oklahoma. So I found the section where all the kids in class had to like type an excerpt from a text about different nationalities that came to Oklahoma. We have the Italians, the Mexicans, the Germans, the Poles, the British and Irish. Looks like I did that part with Dana. The Jews in Oklahoma, the Germans, the blacks in Oklahoma, and the Czechs. So there is a section about African Americans in Oklahoma. Mostly it talks about how most of them were brought against their will, and many were actually brought as slaves of Native Americans who came during the Trail of Tears, but not all came against their will, and it talks about how many there were, and it also talks about some of the, black towns like Langston, which is actually kind of a politically correct way of explaining that it was a sundown town. So I knew all of these things, right? But I did not know about the Tulsa Massacre. Now, besides everything going on in the world, and Juneteenth and everything else, this has really been on my mind, because even with all the other scary things that have been going on for months, I am particularly anxious, and have been, about my home state because of what is going down tomorrow in Tulsa, because of the rally that's taking place. Even though if I was in Norman, I would be talking trash about Tulsa because Tulsa thinks they're so great, blah, 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 blah. Norman, Tulsa, they have a rivalry, but this is not a time for that. I'm very concerned. I've been reaching out to my friends in Tulsa, and I'm worried. But of course, that has me thinking even more about how humiliated and terrible I feel about not having known about the Tulsa Massacre, even though I spent an entire year in 4th grade learning about the history of Oklahoma. So, my point with this story is, no matter who you are and how enlightened you may think that you are and how much you've traveled and all this stuff, there's always a little something more that you can learn, right? So maybe take the time to see what you don't know about someone else. I don't want to say then you'll feel bad about yourself too. You'll feel good because you finally know, right? Anyway, so that's my story. How about some music? It's a bit of a crazy quilt of things today, right? So that was my story. I'm going to start with a brand new song. This is the worldwide, universe-wide debut. I've also been experimenting with trying to play the tambourine with my feet. I don't know if that's going to work out, but, I may or may not give it a shot. Okay, so this first one, I'm not even going to tell you what it's about, because I think you'll be able to figure it out. It's called Cabin Fever, and here we go. Okay. Come one, come all, and gather round. See the crazy lady in the sequin gown. You won't believe your eyes. Every visit's a wonderful surprise. She got cabin fever, can you believe her? She got cabin fever, can you believe her? Got cabin fever, can you believe her? She got cabin fever, mind and soul ain't right. Well, we found her curled up in a bar with her face against the wall, sad and scared, looking very small. Then she said she couldn't cope, her brain was just like nope. Closed her eyes, cabin fever, her mind and soul ain't right. Alright folks, that is my brand new song, Cabin Fever. Still working out the kinks, but I'm glad I could share it with you. The dog, I'm getting mixed reviews from the dog who's about to leave the living room, so you know, oh well. Hey guys. Okay, so next up, another one of my songs. This one is called, it still seems to be called Another New Song. Maybe it's called Voices. I don't know. I'm not real sure. But here we go. Can't seem to get it right. The more I try, the harder I fight. Is there a secret everybody else knows? What more am I supposed to do? Gotta stay upbeat, keep the voices away. They're always trying to tell me I don't deserve to stay. Of course I know what they'll say. Just have to take it day by day. 'Cause they're gonna keep me from fading away. Time for something big. Not just another love song or another unpaid gig. I'll pray if I have to, but it never worked before. Or maybe it did, but I couldn't see the forest for the floor. Gotta stay upbeat, keep the voices away. They're always trying to tell me I don't deserve to stay. Of course I know what they'll say. Just have to take it day by day. But is that gonna keep me from fading away? Fading away. Now I know it's important to suffer and learn, but it's hard not to feel like it's my turn. What more must I do to earn my place in the sun? Don't care if I burn. Just make sure you watch me as I burn. Watch me Whoops. There we go. Alright guys, that was Another New Song. It's another one of my songs. The dog's decided to stay. He wasn't sure. A bit of wandering. He's going to stay for now. Okay. So now it's time for my Loretta Lynn cover. A few things you might or might not know about Miss Loretta Lynn. That opening song was called Rated X. It's from 1973. The thing I love so much about Loretta Lynn, besides her staying power, she had, oh my god, 16 #1 hits and like 70 charted songs, including her work with Conway Twitty, which is really something special during the 70s. And the one I'm going to do for you today was her first #1 hit in 1966. She had, which is You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man in 1967, was Don't Come Home A-Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, also sassy and incredible. And then in 1968, Fist City. So if you've never listened to Fist City, you gotta check it out. That's what's so amazing about Loretta, besides the fact that she got married in 16 and had 4 kids by the time she was 20. But if you want to know more about her incredible life and where she came from, I would say watch Coal Miner's Daughter. But she has had an incredible career, and also, just in 2004, you may or may not be familiar with the album she did together with Jack White, where she wrote or co-wrote all of the songs. It was very well received and won awards and things. I was actually very tempted to use one of those songs for the opener, but went with Rated X instead because it's just so groovy and awesome. Anyway, Loretta Lynn, all hail. She's amazing, sassy, assertive, with a bit of wit, which I love. And I'm going to do her first #1 hit, You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man. All right, here we go. All hail the feisty female songwriter of the week, Miss Loretta Lynn. And everybody just keep fighting to make things better, one day at a time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, CB Davis and Jessica and Ashley, and I will see you guys next Friday. Bye.